Hello and welcome. President Buhari deplores actions by some persons to undermine government policies as Presidential Economic Advisory recommends decisive action to end all forms of insecurity in the country. Federal government begins profiling for prosecution of persons and institutions allegedly involved in terrorism financing in the country. At least 9 gunmen killed in the joint military and police operation while on their way to attack Orlu police station in Imo State. And the World Health Organization grants emergency approval for the COVID vaccine made by Chinese company Sinopharm. Plus we have business, sports, news from Abuja, and later on news from our studios in London.
On business news tonight, Securities and Exchange Commission plans to register and actively monitor local facilitators of foreign
Some persons whom he describes as unscrupulous elements have tried to undermine every policy of his government, irrespective of the good it was meant to achieve for the country. President Muhammadu Buhari made the comments today when he received members of the Presidential Economic Advisory Council who were at the villa to submit recommendations of their findings to him regarding the country's economy. A critical submission from the chairman of the committee, Professor Doyin Salami, is that the global economy has continued to improve as COVID infections drop and the rollout of the vaccinations intensify. But according to him, the Nigerian economy, while out of recession, remains fragile, with inflation rising, unemployment on the high side, and external accounts weak. The recommendations of the committee include taking a decisive action to end all forms of insecurity in the country, mobilization of resources for investment, hastened implementation of agriculture reform policies, passage of the Petroleum Industry Bill as a basis for revitalizing the industry, poverty reduction, employment generation, and incentives for private investment in irrigation, and to promote all year-round farming. On his part, the president says agriculture is a good way for the country to overcome economic challenges confronting it, but some people, according to him, are mercilessly against Nigeria. He reads, "We need to go back to the land. Technology is doing away with petroleum, but we are lucky we have other resources, gas and vast arable land which are not using enough." He cites the closure of borders to control the smuggling of petroleum products and the check of the influx of smuggled goods, arms and ammunition into the country as some of the decisions taken. Yet the president says arms are still being smuggled in. President Buhari therefore urged leaders at every level to go back to the basics, noting that a bottom-up approach was necessary from ward to local council, state and federal. And more actions are being taken by the government to tackle the rising cases of insecurity in the country. The latest move is to clamp down on their resources of finance, a move the Attorney General and Minister of Justice says is already underway. According to Mr. Abubakar Malami, the government is already profiling some highly placed persons allegedly involved in financing terrorism, and he says they will be prosecuted. He explains that the arrest of the suspects and the recent conviction of some Nigerians in the United Arab Emirates for terrorism financing has given the decision leverage.
Some times back, there were certain convictions of Nigerians allegedly involved in terrorism financing in the United States of America, United States of UAE, United Arab Emirates. That gave rise to a wider and far-reaching investigations in Nigeria, and I'm happy to report that arising from the wider coverage investigation that has been conducted in Nigeria, a number of people, both institutional and otherwise, were found to be culpable, were found to, reasonable grounds for suspicion of terrorist financing have been established or perhaps has been proven to be in existence in respect of the transactions of certain higher profile individuals and businessmen across the country. And I'm happy to report that investigation has been ongoing for long and it has reached an advanced stage. Arising from the investigation, there exists certainly reasonable grounds for suspicion that a lot of Nigerians, high profile, institutional and otherwise, are involved in terrorist financing and they are being profiled for prosecution. So in essence, it is indeed true that the government is prosecuting and is indeed initiating processes of prosecuting those high-profile individuals that are found to be financing terrorism. It is indeed true.
How many of them have been arrested?
Well, as to the number, because the investigation is ongoing and it has to be conclusive before one can arrive at a certain number. But one thing I can tell you is a large number and they are being profiled for prosecution. It is indeed a large number and I am not in a position to give you with precision the number as at now because the profiling and investigation is ongoing.
So what is the message the government is now sending to those with the habit of financing terrorism?
Well, the message is clear. Nobody is going to be spared. No stone will be left unturned. We shall certainly and aggressively pursue those people that are involved in terrorist financing as far as the Nigerian state is concerned.
Meanwhile, the clampdown on hoodlums terrorizing some parts of Imo State continues, with the security operatives killing at least 9 gunmen who engaged them in a gun battle in Olu. The police had laid an ambush on the gunmen as they were reportedly on their way to attack another police station in the community.
In recent times, Imo State, situated in Nigeria's southeast, has been in the news, mostly for the wrong reasons. There has been several security breaches, throwing the state into confusion. The chain of events began on March 9th, when angry youths on a reprisal attack on the police set a station ablaze in Utu Boma local government area. Then came April 5th, and with it an attack on the correctional center in Owerri, the state capital, where about 1,844 inmates were set free. The Imo State Police Command headquarters was also hit. From then on, it has been a barrage of bombardments on police stations and officers. The federal government waded into the matter, with Vice President Professor Yemi Oshibajo condemning the act, saying its reasons has deeper ramifications.
It's very evident that this is not just an attack. When you attack institutions of law and order and law enforcement, it's evident that it's not an attack on just those institutions. It's an attack on the welfare and the well-being of the people.
In a move to contain the menace through proactive strategies, a new commissioner of police was deployed to the state, armed with objectives. There was also a donation of security vehicles and gadgets by the state government. This video, shot on May 6th, shows daredevil armed men preparing to launch an attack on the police station in Olu. The operation was foiled by the police, who neutralized some of the men described by the police commissioner as bandits.
The operatives of IG Response Team IRT, in conjunction with special forces and other tactical assets of the command, engaged them in fierce shootout in a bid to dislodge them from the property to be attacked, in a bid to prevent them from killing the policemen working in the police station, and in the ensuing gun battle, they met their Waterloo.
Attacks on police formations is fast spreading across the country, sending signals to the federal government that a lot more needs to be done to strengthen the nation's security architecture, widely described as fragile currently.
From Imo State to Abia, where the management of the State University said only 1 student of the institution is currently missing after an abduction that happened on Wednesday night in Okigwe. The school authorities said in a statement that the vehicle conveying passengers, including students, was attacked by unidentified hoodlums, and one of the students who escaped from the abductors confirmed the abduction of one student still in captivity. Law enforcement agencies of both Abia and Imo states are said to have been mobilized to rescue the student. Meanwhile, the school authorities have moved the time of lectures, other activities and student interactions within and outside the campus to 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. Moving up north now, the 27 students of the Federal College of Forestry in Kaduna State, recently released by their abductors, have finally been reunited with their families. The students were received by their parents today after undergoing thorough medical examinations to ascertain their state of health. Some of them have been sharing their experiences in the kidnappers' den.
That night was very horrible. Like, I was about sleeping actually when they came in. So they took all of us. And it was just terrible. The night is nothing to write home about because I don't want to even think about it, seriously. I was eating two masara. We ate like 7 bags there. That's what we have been eating. Soup, no Maggi, no oil, no salt. We checked for like, they came around 12 o'clock and we got there around 4 o'clock. They came around 12, we got there around 4. We walked for like 4 hours or so. We walked before we go and met them with the bikes, then they took us. I don't really know what to say, but then the people there said they want to make peace with the government. So I don't know, it's left for the government, but I don't know, but they are having higher plans to do higher things to schools. They want to close all schools in Kaduna. That's what they said.
Like we sleep outside, mosquitoes, cold, no better bed, just we slept on the floor with grasses and the rest. Definitely I will continue my education.
Anybody who said ransom was not paid, anybody who said there was no negotiation, the person is a liar. There was a negotiation up to the point we are up to today. And we thank God that the bandits also calmed down to their own negotiation. From the beginning they say 500 million.
I want to say it clearly here that all our students are rescued successfully. All of them, they are back. And I want to say definitely this is going to be a turning point for the college. It's going to be also a turning point for the students. And I want to appeal to all the parents to allow the students to continue with their education. It is very important, all the necessary, and I promise that we will meet all the stakeholders to make sure that all the necessary precaution has been taken and in place so that the student will not suffer for their academic activities.
This is an evil that is before us. This is something that requires all of us to come together. This is not issue of faith. This is not issue of ethnicity. This is not issue of political persuasion. This is something that is threatening national security and also our existence and our humanity. So we need to come together. We need to do something. It's not about blames. You can see the victims of banditry, they're caught across different shades of life. So it means we have to come together. We must do something.
The Archbishop of Abuja Catholic Diocese, the Most Reverend Ignatius Kaigama, says the federal government needs to act fast by ensuring that the country is not pushed into a state of anarchy. He's also asking the federal government to open up discussions, debate and dialogue on the incessant security challenges in the country, and such discussions should cut across political, religious and ethnic lines. According to him, the resort to self-help security organizations is evidence of security deficiency. In part 2, after the break, we have more on the security matters. Police and commercial motorcycles clash in Lagos following the shooting of one bike rider. That's in a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. President Buhari deplores actions by some persons to undermine government policies as Presidential Economic Advisory recommends decisive action to end all forms of insecurity in the country. Federal government begins profiling for the prosecution of persons and institutions allegedly involved in terrorism financing in the country. At least 9 gunmen killed in a joint military and police operation while on their way to attack Orlo police station in Imo State. And the World Health Organization grants emergency approval for the COVID vaccine made by Chinese company Sinopharm. Let's bring you more now on the state of the nation regarding the Most Reverend Ignatius K. Gama. That's the Archbishop of the Abuja Catholic Archdiocese, and he was speaking about the resort to self-help by some certain security organizations, and he says that that's evidence of security deficiency. Let's listen to him.
At the moment, insecurity is the greatest challenge facing our country. Boko Haram has menacingly ravaged the land. The herdsman-farmer menace has festered and spread and has today developed into banditry, kidnapping, armed robbery, and brutal killings. Government should open up discussion, debate, and dialogue about the issues at hand across political parties, religious or ethnic lines. Each government declares a vicious war against corruption, only for it to end up being swallowed up by the same monster of corruption. What is more, the necessary loopholes through which monies are siphoned from the public treasury are yet to be plugged, giving credence to the assertion that there is no credible template created upon which the war on corruption is to be fought. You must do something for us. Don't push us to a cul-de-sac. A cul-de-sac in French means you go to a wall, you can't go, you can't come, but you are just caught there. Please, Nigerians need better than this. They deserve better than this.
And more prominent Nigerians are speaking about the current security situation in the country. Legal luminary Afe Babalola is one of those who has suggested the convocation of a national summit, which he recently announced that he would sponsor. Tagged Summit of Hope, Chief Afe Babalola says he is not pleased with some reports, seeing the move as an action against the Nigerian state. He notes that the country needs urgent moves to salvage it and rekindle hope.
Nigeria is drifting to anarchy and possible civil war. Government has no right to ask anybody not to meet, to talk like I'm talking to you, hold conference for good cause. Mine is a good cause. I stand for that good cause that Nigeria must not be involved in civil war. Nigeria must not be derailed. We don't want anarchy in this country. I stand by that. I'm not the government. I'm not asking for government to hold a conference. I'm asking our people to meet and resolve and go to the government and persuade them to do the right thing. It is after they had met and they had resolved on what is good for the country, and they would approach the president, they would approach the National Assembly to make necessary law. In fact, in my lecture I said there's something wrong with us in going back to the 1963 Constitution with 4 regions. Make it 6 now. Amend it to follow the present geopolitical zones, and make other amendments which will make it impossible for members of House to earn salary. In the past, they were not earning salary. So only those who qualify to serve people patriotically without money, like me as I did in the University of Lagos, should be allowed.
Commercial motorcycle operators and police personnel have clashed in the Ogba area of Lagos, creating panic among the residents of that area. It was gathered that the incident followed the killing of one of the bike operators yesterday night, allegedly by a policeman. The police officer was said to have been conveyed by the commercial bike rider, but refused to pay the fare. In the ensuing scuffle, the policeman allegedly shot him.
Residents of Agege and Ogba areas of Lagos all scampered for safety as police officers in Ogba and Pensinema division came all out for commercial motorcyclists who had threatened to burn down the station over the alleged shooting of one of their members. All businesses and shops in the area immediately closed for the day. The tension created in the area has prompted the State Commissioner of Police, Akim Odumosu, to visit the scene for an on-the-spot assessment.
It was around midnight. This patrol vehicle went out. 2 people were found on Okada after 12 midnight. And when the Okada was stopped, they refused. When they were given a chase, they abandoned the Okada, they left. It took off. And the Okada was brought to the station. So they searched the Okada. And they discovered this hidden under the seat of the Okada and this ammunition. So they are going on operation to do that one now. And people in Agege area now that they have trouble now, nobody should panic. Agege is safe. Agege, there's no war in Agege.
The Commissioner of Police also paid a visit to Gengere community in Mile 12 area of Ikosi, Isheri local government, where there's been pockets of violence in recent weeks.
This is the economic life wire of Nigeria that belongs to all of us. Anything that happens in Lagos now has a lot of effect throughout the whole country, economically, financial-wise. We are not going to allow that. Any slightest thing now, you start fighting, you start killing people. It is no longer acceptable. Call yourself and warn yourself. We have the same power. We have enough power to deal with the situation with all the security forces, not only police. We are on the same page. All the military, all the SSS now, so we are on the same page. We are not guilty. We are paid. We are trained to maintain peace. Even if our life will go for it, we have to maintain that peace at all costs.
Over the last 2 weeks, there's been a series of communal intolerance leading to crises in some parts of Lagos. The police has, however, warned that the state cannot afford to witness another crisis and will no longer tolerate any act of lawlessness in the state.
Over to Rivers State, where the governor, Nyesom Wike, says the socio-economic challenges and widespread insecurity being experienced in the country can be brought under control if the citizens play an active role in electing capable leaders in 2023. The governor says the indifferent attitude of Nigerians during elections creates the loopholes for the emergence of incompetent people whose policies and programs negatively affect the nation. He made the comments when he received members of a non-governmental organization in Port Harcourt.
There cannot be any governance, not to talk about good governance, when there is no security. Without security, who will use the infrastructure? If you build all the health facilities and there is no security, who will use them? If you build all the best schools, when there is security, who will go to the schools? So for me, the basic thing is the security of the people. Then we'll talk about the basic infrastructure. But unfortunately, where we are today, even the infrastructure is not provided, security is not provided, so there's no governance, not to talk about good governance. The governance in the country has totally collapsed. But who are those who contributed to it? It is all of you, all of us. Because we fail to utilize the opportunity we have to put out a bad government. But the problem again is that when you have another opportunity, like in 2023 now comes, you either bring ethnicity or religion, not looking at who actually can help Nigeria move to the next stage of development. So we all have problems ourselves. Even for you to come out and vote, you don't go and vote. Even when you vote, you say, no, don't bother, I don't care, whoever that will win. You cannot say whoever. Because if you say whoever, then you don't need to cry, because whoever has come. So, for us, everybody has a role to play in this country.
When the news at 10 returns, we have some court stories. The federal government restates commitment to procuring over 29 million Johnson & Johnson vaccines. Plus, Security and Exchange Commission plans to register and actively monitor local facilitators of foreign stocks. And that will be on Business News, all coming up. Do join us again. Welcome back. Let's take a look at some legal matters now. The Supreme Court has affirmed the judgment of the Court of Appeal, which upheld the deregistration of the National Unity Party and some other political parties. The Independent National Electoral Commission had last year deregistered the parties over failure to win any election during the 2019 general elections. In the judgment, the Apex Court held that the deregistration of the parties was done in line with the law and compliance with the provisions of the Constitution and the Electoral Act. In the appeal before the Apex Court, the NUP had challenged INEC's decision at the Federal High Court and the Court of Appeal. The Abuja Division of the Appeal Court had on July the 29th, 2020, affirmed the powers of INEC to deregister political parties. Delivering the lead judgment of a panel of the court, Justice Muhammad Idris held that INEC did not err in law in its decision. The court upheld the judgment of Justice Taiwo of the Federal High Court in Abuja, which had earlier in May 2020 nullified the registration of NUP and other political parties for being in breach of Section 225A of the Nigerian Constitution. He said constitutional provisions spell out the minimum election victory a party must record or a percentage of votes it must poll to sustain its status as a registered political party. The Supreme Court has declared the dissolution of local government administrations in Oyo and Katsina states and their replacement with caretaker committees as illegal. In the judgment delivered today by Justice Adamu Joiro, the Apex Court, in a unanimous decision, condemned the Oyo and Katsina state governments for the unlawful dissolution of the duly elected local government council officials. The court ruled that the dissolution of duly elected PDP local government council officials by Governor Aminu Masari on allegations of financial misappropriation of council funds is illegal, unconstitutional, null and void. The court further gave orders directing that the unlawful dissolved election officials be paid all their entitlements from the date of their illegal dissolution to the date they were supposed to vacate office. The court also awarded costs to the appellants and insisted that it should be complied with within a time frame. Let's cross over to Abuja now, and here's Linda Akigbe.
The federal government of Nigeria is committing 29.5 billion naira to the procurement of doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine through the AVAT initiative coordinated by Afreximbank. The Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, says the supplementary budget for COVID-19 vaccines will cover the cost of additional vaccines over and above those provided by COVAX, as well as the full cost of operations and logistics for delivering the vaccines around the country. She was speaking at the collaborative Africa Budget Reform Initiative General Assembly webinar, where she said that the World Bank has indicated willingness to provide needed facilities in support of Nigeria's COVID-19 vaccination plan. She explains that the nation has received commitments from COVAX for COVID-19 vaccines that could cover 43.1 million of the eligible population as donations from some development partners. The National Association of Nigerian Nurses and Midwives is asking states and federal governments to reciprocate their selfless service in the ongoing efforts to halt the spread of COVID-19 in the country by improving on their welfare and ensuring their safety. The president of the association, Mr. Nachi Mike, made the call at a news conference in Abuja to mark the beginning of events to commemorate the 2021 Nurses and Midwives Day. The association maintains that it has lost many of its members to the COVID-19 pandemic, as many others are exposed daily to other forms of threats, including kidnapping and attacks in their workplaces. To other issues, Ogun State has been selected by the federal government to benefit from 3 agricultural pilot programs in its integrated farm estate development program to boost food production and create employment opportunities through the value chain. The Executive Secretary of the National Agricultural and Development Authority, Mr. Paul Ikone, disclosed this during a courtesy visit to Governor Dapo Abiodun in Abeokuta, the state capital. For Governor Abiodun, 100 hectares of land will be provided for the project.
Ogun State, southwest Nigeria, is known for its agricultural potential, especially when it comes to cassava production and ofada rice cultivation. The state is one of the major food producers in the country, which is why it has been nominated to benefit from 3 federal government agricultural pilot programs on cassava production and value chain. The benefits of the nomination include an integrated farm estate, Gari packaging plant, as well as the recruitment and training of 100 graduates in agriculture and science-related courses on soil testing and extension services.
We are training young Nigerians based on Mr. President's directive on soil test and extension service provider. So Ogun State is expected to nominate 200 people in the first phase. Also, again, Ogun is one of the states in the pilot stage of this program.
The state governor, Dapo Abiodun, commends the president for the nomination and promises to provide 100 hectares of land for the projects.
And they agreed to put the first ever international standard testing center in Ogun State. We have located this center also very contiguous to the airport. And this center will provide an opportunity for anyone who wants to export agro-produce to take the sample there, have it tested and certified fit for export. So, yes, we could now have come to a better state. To be honest with you, we have everything. We have the enabling environment.
When completed, the Integrated Farm Estate Development Program is expected to boost food production and employment opportunities through the value chain.
A 23-year-old suspected drug trafficker, Okowale Douglas, has excreted 59 wraps of heroin weighing 781.2 grams following his arrest at Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, while trying to board a flight to Italy. The suspect was arrested during an outward clearance of Ethiopian airline flight number 910 at the boarding gate of the airport, and he claims he has been residing in Italy since 2011 after entering the country via Libya with one of his uncles. He says he works as a restaurant attendant in Italy, where he earns 900 euros per month, and also works as a painter on his free days and gets about 400 euros upon completion of any work. He also confessed he was promised 2,000 euros if he successfully delivers the drug to Milan, Italy. The suspect said that 2 men brought the wrapped drug to him in a hotel on Friday night, after which he swallowed the 59 pellets early on Saturday, May 1st, 2021, and was promised 2,000 euros on successful delivery to Milan, Italy. The NDLEA says it will ensure no single gram of illicit drug is smuggled in or out of Nigeria and will make the welfare of Nigerians a priority. At least 10 victims of human trafficking have been rescued by officers of the Katsina Command of the Nigeria Immigration Service in Katsina State. The victims were rescued in the attempt to cross the border to Niger Republic en route Libya through one of the illegal routes. Immigration authorities say none of the victims was in possession of any travel document and any means of livelihood. The victims are an 11-month-old baby girl alongside 8 women and 1 man from Delta, Edo, Lagos, Enugu and Ekiti states. And that's all from Abuja. Now to Anne for business news.
Thank you, Linda. Let's begin tonight with the Securities and Exchange Commission revealing plans to register and actively monitor brokers selling stocks of foreign companies in its effort to tighten its regulatory oversight. In an interview with Bloomberg, the Commission's Executive Commissioner for Operations, Dayo Bison, says that about 400,000 Nigerians invested in foreign stocks through online brokers in the last 18 months, exceeding investment in schemes or mutual funds. He also adds that increasing interest among the younger population is a concern to the Commission due to the possibilities of exploitation. The Abdul Samad Rabiu Africa Initiative has donated 5 billion naira as grant to the Akwa Ibom State government in support of healthcare and social development. Speaking at the presentation of the grant award letter by ASR Africa to the state governor, the chairman of ASR Africa and BOA Group, represented by Kabiru Rabiu, stressed that the state will be the first subnational government to benefit from the annual $100 million annual Africa Fund for Social Development and Renewal.
We are partnering Akwa Ibom State government, and we are making this commitment of 5 billion naira investment in healthcare delivery. We are starting immediately with 2.5 billion naira payment. Immediately, the Accountant General is here, and that money, will be worth this week. So thank you so much, Your Excellency, for your time, and thank you very much for this partnership.
We are hoping this will build something much more enduring. With this, we can take up a tertiary initiative, because we seem to have conquered the secondary initiative of healthcare development system. We want to move into tertiary. Mind you, we already have a quaternary that is running under a different model. We don't want to include that under this model. But with this, we want to graduate from secondary to tertiary healthcare delivery system.
The federal government says it is spending 1.5 billion naira for the registration of 250,000 business names with the Corporate Affairs Commission under the MSME Survival Fund. Speaking at a news conference ahead of the 2021 MSME Awards, Special Advisor to the President of MSME, Mr. Turiola Johnson, says that there are plans to set up tomato processing cluster in Kaduna State and Katsina to boost production for consumption as well as exports.
It is the activities of His Excellency, the partnership and trade and investment going around in the past few years that we realized that, listen, MSMEs can make face masks. MSME people, where there are a lot of MSMEs that cannot pay or that do not have them. There are a lot of MSMEs that do not have capacity to pay for their own CAC document. And that's why we are doing 250,000 free registration for MSMEs. It is free to the MSMEs, but it is not free to the federal government. The federal government is paying 6,000 per SME. In short, we're paying about 1.5 billion naira for the entire 250,000 registration.
Well, let's head to the local market to see how it fared at the close of business today. It has closed positive today, gaining 0.21% after a 3-day bearish run. John Mekwa has the details.
Hello and welcome to the stock market report. Well, a slight reprieve for the NGX All-Share Index after 3 consecutive negative sessions as it rebounds by 0.21%. A great way to end the week as the market cap regained 39 billion naira from 167 billion naira lost in the previous session. The oil and gas sector remained a toast of investors today, adding 2%. Once again, Seplat was a major factor on the counter-sustained rally. Banking followed, gaining 1.11%, while industrial goods extended its downturn for a second day by 0.12%. Top trades list had the financial services component, Access, FBN Holdings and Zenith contributing over 100 million units to a total of 238.93 million shares traded in almost 4,000 transactions. Now, though the bear has dominated the first week of May, traders say they remain hopeful that the bull will return next week as the first quarter earnings season gradually draws to a close. That's the stock market report. I'm Ini John Mekwa.
And that's business news tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. Have a wonderful weekend. It's back to you, Joma.
Thanks, Anne. The World Health Organization today gave emergency approval for Sinopharm vaccine made by the Chinese firm after validating its safety, efficacy and quality. Until now, the WHO had only approved vaccines made by Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson and Moderna. The addition is expected to accelerate COVID-19 vaccination access for countries seeking protection of health workers and populations at risk. Here's Simon Pusey with more international news in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The United Nations Human Rights Office has strongly criticised a police raid against suspected drug traffickers in Rio de Janeiro after allegations of abuse and extrajudicial executions.
Que só a pé os agentes conseguiam fazer buscas na favela.
The deadliest police operation in the city's history has left 25 dead, including a police officer. Residents say police killed suspects who wanted to surrender and entered homes without a warrant. Police have denied any wrongdoing, saying officers acted in self-defence. Images showed drug traffickers trying to escape by running across rooftops. Police said the victims included suspected members and leaders of the drug trafficking group. Australia will resume repatriation flights for some citizens in India after a controversial ban on arrivals from the country ends on the 15th of May.
Repatriation flights, the facilitated commercial flights that we have been running now for a considerable period of time.
Prime Minister Scott Morrison has faced criticism for failing to help citizens trapped in the nation. The ban sparked further anger after the government said Australians seeking to fly home could face jail or fines. It comes as India reported yet another record daily rise in coronavirus cases of 414,000, while deaths from COVID-19 also rose by 3,315. That's according to Health Ministry data. Japan has extended a state of emergency in Tokyo and 3 other areas until the end of May to try and tackle increasing coronavirus cases just months before the Tokyo Olympics. Prime Minister Yoshide Suga said that the government had hoped a short and powerful state of emergency would contain a 4th wave of infection, but new cases in major cities such as Tokyo and Osaka are still at high levels. Tokyo reported 907 new cases on Friday, while Osaka had just over 1,000. US employers hired fewer workers than expected last month, despite a huge stimulus package. Wall Street's main indexes opened higher on Friday after stocks rallied after the news. Just 266,000 jobs were added in April, and the unemployment rate edged up to 6.1%. That's according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. In all, 9.8 million remain unemployed.
Honestly, today's report is probably one of the most disappointing jobs reports of all time compared to expectations. So while it's great to see the labor market adding more jobs, we need to see a pace of improvement much quicker than what we saw in the data this morning.
Thousands of people have protested in East Jerusalem against the possible eviction of Palestinian families. It's after scuffles between Israeli forces and Palestinians broke out. Israeli police said they had arrested 9 people for disorderly conduct or assaults. France, Germany, Italy, Spain and Britain have all urged Israel to halt settlement building in the West Bank as tensions continue to increase in the region. Italian police have arrested 2 people after discovering a big weapons cache and over 10 kilos of drugs hidden in a fruit shop in Naples. Police footage shows operators inspecting a storage room inside the shop where they found 10 handguns, 6 Kalashnikovs, 5 machine guns and ammunition. It's thought the weapons likely belonged to Neapolitan Camorra mafia clans operating in the area. Most debris from a Chinese rocket will be burned up on re-entry and is highly unlikely to cause any harm. That's according to a Chinese foreign ministry. A spokesman made the announcement amid concerns the rocket could cause damage on re-entry to the Earth's atmosphere. Debris from the Long March 5B that sent part of a planned space station into orbit last week is likely to fall in international waters, that's according to analysts. The rocket blasted off from China's Hainan Island last month, carrying the Tianhe module, which contains what will become living quarters for 3 crew members on a permanent Chinese space station. And finally, a Malian woman who gave birth to an incredible 9 babies in a Moroccan hospital in Casablanca is in good health and out of danger, that's according to her doctor. Halima Cissé went into labour after 30 weeks and gave birth to 5 girls and 4 boys, all delivered by caesarean section. Non-uplets are extremely rare, and Cissé was initially expected to give birth to 7 babies, after doctors missed 2 of them on an ultrasound. All the babies are thought to be well and in good health. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. UEFA has announced sanctions including financial punishments against 9 of the 12 clubs behind the aborted Super League project after the clubs apologized and acknowledged a mistake. UEFA says as part of the settlement, the clubs have agreed to fines of €100 million should they seek to play in any unauthorized competition and fines of €50 million should they breach any other commitments to UEFA. The British government has announced that Chelsea and Manchester City fans should not travel to Turkey for the Champions League final after it added the country to England's travel red list. The biggest game in European football is set to take place at the Ataturk Stadium in Istanbul on May the 29th. Transport Secretary Grant Sharp says the government was open to hosting the game in England.
I'm afraid we are having to put Turkey on the red list, and this will have a number of ramifications. First of all, it does mean, I'm afraid, with regard to the Champions League, that fans should not travel to Turkey. The FA, I can tell you, are in discussions with UEFA already on this. We are very open to hosting the final, but it is ultimately a decision for UEFA. Of course, it's worth mentioning the UK has already got a successful track record of football matches with spectators, so we're well placed to do it.
Already in African champions, the Super Falcons will know their opponents for the next year's African Women's Cup of Nations qualifiers when the draws are held on Monday, May the 10th. The Confederation of African Football has announced that the draws will be held at CAF headquarters in Cairo, Egypt. The African Football Governing Body says the competition will also serve as qualifiers for the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup to be jointly hosted by Australia and New Zealand. The Basketball Africa League's opening game will see Nigeria's Rivers Hoopers take on host Patriots of Rwanda as the long-awaited NBA-affiliated tournament tips off in Kigali on May the 16th. The Basketball Africa League will see 12 teams compete in 3 groups of 4, then a 3-round knockout phase, culminating in the finals on May the 30th. Sports News is back to you, Jomo.
Thanks a lot, Ayotunde. And the main news again. President Muhammadu Buhari today deplored actions by some persons to undermine government policies as the Presidential Economic Advisory Committee recommended decisive action to end all forms of insecurity in the country. Also today, the federal government announced that it has begun profiling for prosecution of persons and institutions allegedly involved in financing terrorism in the country. And the World Health Organization today granted emergency approval for the COVID vaccine made by the Chinese company Sinopharm. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for staying with us. I'm Ijoma Onyato. Do have a great weekend and stay safe. Good night.